The following is intended only for mature audiences.
Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann, and it's just me, flying solo again. Steiny will be back very soon from Hawaii. He's having a lovely time. The reason I'm doing this episode today is because yesterday was Super Tuesday with the presidential primaries. And what we learned is that Nikki Haley is going to end her presidential bid, which means we're going to have a rematch of Biden and Trump. Why is that important? I don't know! Because these fucking guys are so goddamn old and out of their minds. They have no business running for the highest office in our nation and then having one of the most powerful positions in the world. Jumping off, we got Trump, who had a rally in New Hampshire a little bit ago, and he's bragging about acing his cognitive test. But then, as he's ranting and raving about January 6th, the insurrection at the Capitol in 2021, he incorrectly blames Nikki Haley for being, quote, in charge of security, saying that he offered thousands of troops, but, she said no, Nikki Haley, who was in charge, which obviously he meant Nancy Pelosi. But it's not that he's just having a senior moment as much as he's so adamant about what's happening. He should be with it enough to recall the name of who he's pissed at instead of just throwing out his opponent's name. Then he just spirals. He goes in this bizarre rant about crowd sizes and look at all the people back there. You got a lot of people. This is supposed to be a quaint little area. This is not quaint at all. When Haley comes here, she gets like 9 people. The press never reports the crowds, And further confusing Nikki Haley with Nancy Pelosi, he goes on about the Capitol attack, like, by the way, they never report the crowd on Jan 6. Nikki Haley, they destroyed all of it. All the evidence, all the information, everything deleted. They destroyed all of it.
God bless the United States.
It's just like he's obsessing about this thing that he's not even properly recalling. And it makes you fucking wonder about his mental state, which if you don't already think he's batshit crazy, then you yourself might want to go and consult with a psychological professional. Then we'll go to December 28th of last year. There's a picture that came out. It was on Twitter and all over the place. Speculation erupts that Trump's using these 2 black rectangular pads under his feet, under his toes. And social media did not take kindly to that discovery because they're like, is he going to tip over? Is he leaning forward? You know why that's a problem? You know who has problems with balance? People with fucking dementia. My father-in-law. He has Lewy body dementia, falls over all the fucking time. So it's like, are they doing this so Trump doesn't tip over? Is this another hint that he's got dementia, along with his rants and his inability to grasp what's reality, this not letting go of the fact that he didn't win the election, even though he admitted at one point, yes, I lost, Biden won. And then he goes back to the whole fucking, they stole the election thing. Like, he can't let it go. That in and of itself is like, holy Christ, is he mental. But now he's rambling. He's not making sense. He's mixing up facts. He just looks so tired and so out of it. Then these fucking foot pads under him to stop him from falling on his face. I mean, for years we've known that Biden's arch nemesis is stairs. He's tripped a number of times. But maybe now we finally get to find out that Trump, after a long time of waiting for it to get down to the final battle, his arch enemy is gravity. But jokes aside, like, he just keeps fucking rambling and just goes off about the weirdest tangents when he's trying to prove a point. Like, he's just dragging it out, trying to keep a clear thought amongst himself as he's losing control of the conversation when it's just him in front of a microphone, oddly enough. Can we get somebody to publicly give him a cognitive test that is not fucking weighted, that is not biased, that there's no fucking trickery involved? That way we can finally get some fucking truth on whether or not he is fit for office, or if he's way too old, or if he actually has impairment or cognitive decline that is measurable and undeniable. And don't worry, this isn't just me bashing on Trump. All right, let's talk about Biden, the creepy boundary-crossing hair smeller who whispers randomly while reading strictly off of a teleprompter. He's 81, and will be 82 in late November, and will probably die before next President's Day, creating a war for power in the White House between VP Kamala Harris, who he's going to run with again, and, Emperor Palpatine's GOP. We shouldn't even be having this fucking discussion, honestly, because these guys are like grumpy old men age, and they can barely fucking handle their business. Although I'm going to say this, anytime I hear Biden talk, he does sound more with it than Trump, and it's not because I have Trump derangement syndrome. It's because that motherfucker rambles. Although Joe and his fucking weird whispering shit is a whole nother matter. He's just being zany. He's kind of a kook. It's not like, I'm scared what's going to happen if you give him the launch codes, because he's had them for 4 years and he hasn't started World War III yet. It's the other countries of the world that are making that shit happen. And he's not like sending out these insane tweets pointed at people that he disagrees with or that fucking question him at all hours of the night because he never sleeps. Like, you know what is another thing with dementia you got to worry about is an understanding of time, non-24-hour sleep-wake disorder, which if you don't know what it is, it's like this circadian rhythm sleep disorder where somebody's biological clock doesn't sync to a 24-hour day, so they have all kinds of weird insomnia issues and being up all night and sleeping during the day. Like blind people suffer from this shit, but also people with dementia. Yeah, another thing that my father-in-law with the Lewy body dementia has that I would point towards Trump and say, probably. And let's not just focus on the president or the former president. Let's talk about Moscow Mitch. Good old Mitch McConnell there, the guy that's Speaker of the House that is finally going to fucking hang it up here at the end of this run. And he's 82 goddamn years old himself. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about, right? Mitch McConnell, the guy who looks like one of those weird extras on SpongeBob, the flat-faced fish people, the man with no chin. He's stepping down. 17 years worth of Washington-based limp dickery finally going to come to an end. Why is he doing this? Well, if you paid attention, presumably after 2 incidents in July and August of last year where he froze up during press conferences when he was asked about re-election, and then he just gave a 1,000-yard stare, and then in one instance he just walked away, and then they brought him back. In another instance he just kind of paused, and then, the fucking buffering stopped in his brain because he's running on dial-up speed. He's probably basically the walking embodiment of an AOL 1997 internet connection. What is going on in his head when they ask him this and he's drifting off? This old man, is he going to his happy place? Which, being that he's from Kentucky, I assume is a Klan rally next to an abortion clinic that's being blown up in 1960-something Lexington. Anyways, I was reading these comment sections on stories about all of this. I saw a few people state that they had elderly parents with Parkinson's who had similar episodes of just drifting off. So again, why am I rattling off all these facts? We need term limits for candidates to prevent social progress from going forward. But more importantly, we need age limits in our highest political offices to prevent these type of geriatric jerk-offs from keeping this country linked to the good old days, when white men ran the world and women and blacks didn't have a voice and everybody was just about God, guns, and government. Like those days are gone now. Okay, and you have to be 35 years old to run for president. So they say that the average human brain will continue to develop until the age of 26 to 30, roughly. Right, so 5 years beyond that, you can run for president. Teddy Roosevelt, 42 when he took office. JFK, 43. So that's even years beyond when they have the limit set up for 35. Now, I'm saying that we equally should set the limit at 70 years old for all these offices. Everything, all the way down to basic mayors and all that shit. Why? Because of cognitive decline, because of physical decline, physical ailments. The average life expectancy of a male in America who is white is 78 years old, roughly. Women, it's a little bit more. It's like 81, I believe. But still, the point being that why are we fucking electing our grandparents to the highest offices to make decisions for most of us that are basically between the ages of 25 and 55, not factoring in the boomers because they're the ones that are in this age group that shouldn't be allowed to be in power anymore. If you want the country to utilize fresh ideas, if you want the country to move forward, you need to have younger people in office. I mean, look at Obama. Legalized gay marriage. Trump, on the other hand, put a bunch of fucking conservatives to stack the fucking deck in the Supreme Court, so then they eventually dial back Roe v. Wade. So this is an old white man deciding what's going to happen with women's bodies, and the people that seek out abortions most frequently are women of color who are poor. So why is old whitey making decisions for all these inner city ladies that get knocked up, they can't afford the kid, and the Republicans just want to fucking take away the funding for the entitlement programs to take care of these kids? If you have to be a certain age to run the country or qualify for some of the highest offices, why the fuck have we not gotten to the point where we hit the off switch at retirement age? Like, we expect people to fuck off into the sunset and then allow jobs to be open for younger people to keep just kind of to refresh the workforce. You work so long, you get to retire. Why are we letting these politicians keep going well past their freshness date when they do things that set us back, or they want to set us back with the Roe v. Wade shit? And how long did it fucking take to get some states the ability to decriminalize marijuana? But we've had a steady spate of older presidents who have not forced their hand to take away the power to both draft and enforce the drug laws by the ATF. Like, can we get somebody younger, hipper, with it, and wow, legalize pot so we can clear that hurdle? Kind of stop this whole war on drugs, this war on women's bodies, just all this shit. You got people the age of grandparents. Think about your grandma right now. What's she doing? She's probably playing bingo. Think about your grandpa. Is he fishing or is he fucking dead? If you're my grandparents, you're all on the fucking ground.
Aw, bitch.
And yet here we go, about to have Jack Lemmon and fucking Walter Matthau going at it a second time here in a presidential election. Now, that one was both a reference to The Odd Couple and Grumpy Old Men. Seriously, though, old people, they eat dinner at 4:30, they go to bed by 8, they sit around all day watching Fox News and shaking an angry fist.
I used to be with it, but then they changed what it was.
So, Abraham Grandpa Simpson in office now. Before him, we had Monty Burns, who wants to come back and take another try at ruining the fucking world for the rest of us, and basically spending all of his time not taking care of the American people, but trying to vanquish his enemies and silence his detractors, and basically try to be the American version of Vladimir Putin, who is himself batshit fucking crazy. And he's only 71, and look what he's fucking doing over there in the Ukraine. And then on top of the fact that we have no new ideas or progressive ideas being pushed forward by these old fuckers that refuse to let go of power, let's just put it this way. How does that look to the rest of the world when we have powerful enemies that want to knock us off our perch or couldn't wait to see America fall? And we have these old fuckers that don't have control of their capacities and they need to be hand-walked through their day, and you start to wonder if there's a puppet regime involved with their political party basically running the country through this individual. Like, how does that look to China, North Korea, Russia? Having somebody who's the president of the United States who is not believable in their authority, or you question their cognitive state, just makes us look ridiculous to the rest of the world when we're trying to sit here and be a major world power and like the blueprint for how you run a democracy. It just makes us laughable. And I think it makes us an easy target because they know that if something happens to this person, we're going to be scrambling like chickens with our heads cut off to try to figure out what the fuck is really going on. Will they tear us to shreds or they cyber attack us? We can't have these old fuckers that we don't know if we can trust their mental state in office, especially with Putin in power. These guys are only just going to get older and more frail, and they're leading our country. I want you to think about that. Trump eats fucking McDonald's and Diet Cokes like they're going out of style. I'm surprised that he hasn't exploded, both his heart and his body itself. Biden, God knows how goofy he's going to get in the next 6 months before he eventually fucking keels over, I imagine. It's just like the Democrats are setting themselves up for a veritable shitstorm where it becomes like, oh, the president died in office, and this time it wasn't because somebody shot him in the fucking head or heart. What are we going to do? I mean, there's a succession order that's set up, but then it would go to Kamala, who's not fit to fucking run the country by herself. There's no fucking way. And let's say that something happens to her, and then the next person in line is the Speaker of the House, who right now they got 4 old white dudes vying to take the place of old white dude Mitch McConnell. I'm not going to run down who they are or what they're about. The whole point is old fucking white men, dude. How are both of these parties so concerned with only staying in power instead of taking care of us that they keep putting these fucking dinosaurs in charge of their armies? And I say that because that's basically what happens. There's a war between two political powers, two parties in this country. They have a monopoly on things. They won't let anybody else rise up. So it's just two factions at war with each other, playing tug of war over power and the right to dictate our fucking lives. So now the reason for all of this complaining is to motivate people to start voting younger and pursuing other candidates not of the major two parties. We need to put pressure on the system itself to change so that we can start with age limits and term limits and then diversifying our leadership and then trying to move forward instead of back and forth all the fucking time. I just wish that Jesse Ventura was younger so that, you know, he could get a few terms in. He's the guy that I want to run. I know that sounds a little bit crazy to some, but he's very level-headed, and at no time when I've heard him speak does he seem to ramble like a fucking nutcase or randomly start whispering and looking around like I'm crazy like a fox. And he definitely has a chin. It's got a cleft. It's a very powerful chin. It's a manly chin. It's a chin of someone that would look Putin in the face and say, hey, Vladdy, put a fucking shirt on, stop being a douchebag, leave the Ukraine alone, or I'm going to pile drive you, then give you a Canadian backbreaker, then put you in a fucking sleeper hold. But I digress. He's old. That goes against what I'm saying. Point being, push harder for younger leadership. People in their 30s and 40s and 50s need to get more involved so we can see greater representation of younger mindsets that will then propel the country forward instead of this seesaw act back and forth of who gets to call the shots and just how fucking forward are we going to go and just how fucking backward are we going to go, conservatives versus liberals. Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/ What Do We Call It Podcast Show. For the What Do We Call It Podcast, I'm Jmann. And that's the end.